Dangerous for everyone involved. Jade, thanks. Let's break down this situation. We're joined now by Sean Gilliland from Rural Metro and Nathan Mason from the Insurance Professionals of Arizona. Appreciate both of you all coming in.
Thank you.
This has got to break both of your hearts, just as compassionate humans when you see a situation like this.
Absolutely. I mean, the devastation, nothing like I've ever seen before, for sure.
Yeah, in some ways, it reminds me of Rodeo Chetiskyi a little bit, in that in Rodeo Chetiskyi we had two massive fires that joined forces and created this giant fire. Over there they have 4 different fires burning. We know they've already had 5 fatalities. What are those firefighters up against, Sean?
I think the winds are probably their biggest challenge. With winds that big, there's just no getting in front of a fire like that. It moves so quickly, the embers blow from structure to structure, so the danger is enormous for the firefighters themselves, and then obviously for the civilians.
So what's the objective at this point? You know, you have 100-mile-an-hour winds. Jim Paxson in Jade's story just said that the winds aren't supposed to die down probably until Saturday. That's 3 days from now. So what do they do in the meantime?
To control as best as they can, right? And then the evacuation, protect what structures are protectable safely, if they can do that safely for themselves, and then protect whatever citizens they can safely as well.
Nathan, my heart goes out to the folks who have lost their homes over there. Over 1,000 structures have been lost, so homes and businesses. So tonight, while we aren't really in our wildfire season yet, should folks here be looking at their insurance in case something, God forbid, like that happens here?
It's always important to review your insurance policy. Without knowing what you have, you're going to be caught unaware. Recognize your policy does have coverage for fire. There's no exclusion for a wildfire, so you will be covered for fire damage to your home. And also if you are displaced by that fire, damage to your house, or even by the evacuation.
So regular homeowners insurance, you don't necessarily have to have wildfire insurance?
No, there isn't any specific wildfire insurance coverage for the state of Arizona. Your policy covers fire.
Okay, when you have situations like this, JP Morgan is already predicting $10 billion, and that number is likely to rise in insurance losses. Some insurance companies likely will think twice about writing new policies. We've seen that happen in other places. Do you think that's going to happen?
We've already seen it. We usually have our fire protection class, which designates how quickly a local fire department can attend to a fire. But now we've implemented, or many insurance companies are following, a fire line score, which is how they regulate or see how well a fire department can handle a mass casualty situation. And we're talking casualties of the structures.
Sure.
And other things around.
Yeah, we know we're in the midst of dry, windy conditions over there. Same here. We're in the midst of a long drought.
Yes.
Today, I couldn't believe it. We had, Lindsay said, 25-mile-an-hour winds, and I thought, umbrellas and stuff like that. But over there, 100-mile-an-hour winds. But should these conditions, because we know we're in a drought, because we know it's going to get dry, because we know it gets windy, do you think this is a harbinger of what we could expect here later on this year?
I would say in some respects, yes. There is the potential for a major fire in some of our areas around here. There's a fuel load. You said we have the temperatures, the low humidity. All it takes then is winds that can push the fire or feed the fire, and then that one spark, that one careless, whatever it may be, that touches off and it runs out of control.
I know here at 12, you know, we kind of can feel that anxiety and energy ramping up as we approach, let's say, an election season. As you guys approach wildfire season, do you feel that same anticipation and maybe anxiety?
Absolutely. We used to feel it just in those what we call wildfire season times. Now we're starting to feel it year-round.
Yeah.
As we're seeing in California, we've seen fires in New Jersey earlier on in the year where they hadn't had fires before. So we're definitely now starting to feel this on an ongoing basis, a more consistent basis because of the conditions, because of the fuel loads that are out there, because of the windiness and some of the carelessness that goes on.
We lost Tempe Fire Captain Scott Latham last week from cancer, and we know it's a fact that firefighters suffer with more forms of cancer because of their exposure to toxic smoke. What kind of smoke do these wildfires produce, and what are the risks for firefighters, including some from Arizona who've gone over?
So just a standard wildfire is more of an organic stuff. So there's less risk from a wildfire. There is some risk, obviously, for breathing problems and that sort of stuff, respiratory. When it gets into structures like they're seeing in California, then you add in those extra carcinogenic factors. so many of the things that are in our homes are made of plastics and different chemicals, and when those burn, that all gets released. All those hydrocarbons, all that other stuff goes out. If the firefighters are interacting with that stuff, they obviously have to have the PPE, the right protective equipment.
Right.
If they don't, there's the higher risks for cancer through absorption and inhalation, and then that spreads to the public too. I mean, that's not just limited to firefighters. That blowing around is now being spread out in the public.
Yeah, Nathan, we know that President Biden today signed a disaster declaration for federal resources for those people over there, more specifically the state and the state funding. But for the average Joe, is there any financial recourse aside from their own personal insurance?
Not really,
Yeah.
unless they've got
Or
their
just
savings
SOL.
put together, things like that that can help them out. It's going to take a little bit of time for insurance companies to gather themselves together to make it happen.
Yeah.
They've got to get their resources over there, their adjusters and everybody in, which is always difficult when they're in a hazard area. They can't just plop people in the middle of everything. Best advice right now, save your receipts, any expenses that you have, to be able to submit those in, and have patience. It's hard for everyone, and the workforce for the firefighters is limited. The workforce for insurance companies are still limited.
Yeah.
And the people that are experts at getting things done are the ones that are going to be overloaded.
Yeah, and some finger pointing has started over in California, with some saying the city just doesn't have the resources and manpower to fight even everyday fires over there. How are we set up here?
I know many departments locally are understaffed as well. There's been a lot of attrition just through retirement and that sort of stuff, and it's getting harder and harder to hire folks for those types of jobs. So there are some that are low. I don't know that it's to the scale of what they may be seeing over there.
Yeah.
It's still a great job. It's still a dream job for many folks. So we'd encourage people to look at that as a career option.
All right. Thank you both for coming in tonight, as our hearts go out to all the people in California, firefighters and residents alike. Appreciate your time.